All right, well, let's go ahead and get this party started. Thank you so much to those of you who have joined us today. This is one of my favorite workshops because it gets right to the heart of why so many of us may feel off track, even when we're busy and working hard. But the thing is that busy doesn't necessarily mean productive, and many of us spend our days feeling busy, but really we're just distracted. We're not focused on our big, exciting goals and free from distractions. We have distractions coming at us constantly, and we don't necessarily live free as our true selves. So, today we're going to help you break that distraction cycle and get focused and free. Now, before we begin, I want you to join me. We start all our workshops with a brief grounding exercise. And in this, we're just going to work on becoming fully present here today, relaxed, focused, and fully present so that you can make the most out of this time for yourself and your personal growth. So, in order to do that, if you can, please close your eyes or just bring your gaze down low if closing your eyes isn't comfortable for you. And try to sit upright if you can, neck, spine, and head aligned, straight. You can place your hands on your lap, or mainly you can do anything that is calming to you. Place your hands on desk, on your lap, or maybe just fold them right in front of you. And just find your breath. If you can, breathe through your nose, in and out. Try to settle in. And we're going to take 3 deep breaths, and we're going to hold it at the top. So if you'll join me, take a deep inhale through your nose, and then hold it at the top. Inhale as much as you can, hold it at the top, and then sigh it out audibly through the mouth. Another one, deep inhale through the nose, then hold it at the top, 2, 3, 4, and sigh it out. All right, last one. I want you to take as much air into the bottom of your belly as you can. I want you to take little sips of air until you can't take any more, and then sigh it out. So I want you to take a deep breath in through the nose as much as you can. Little sips of air. Hold it at the top, and then let it all go. Sigh it out. Now, continuing with your eyes closed or your gaze down low, just return to your natural breath. In and out through the nose, just focusing only on the air coming in and going out. An inhale, followed by an exhale. Maybe you just feel the belly rising and lowering. Maybe you just focus on the air coming in and out through the base of your nostrils. Maybe you focus on that little space between the bottom of your nose and the top of your lip. I have a mustache, so sometimes I don't feel that air coming in and going out. And just breathe. Try to focus just on the breath. As thoughts come in, just let them go like clouds passing in the sky. Just breathe. Focus on the breath. All right. Now that we're fully present here, hopefully we're all going to spend time not distracted by the phone or email or social media or text. Try to be fully present here just for the next hour. And now we're about 52 minutes. We're going to try to keep this tight. So I want to start with a quick show of hands. Tell me, and you can put this in the chat as well, but who here has ever sat down to do something important and found themselves checking their phone, responding to messages, scrolling social media, even before starting? Yeah, I feel that, Karen. Yeah, let me just raise my hand as well. Yeah, I mean, we all are distracted. Um, and it may not even be, distracted by the phone. I mean, I used to find myself cleaning the kitchen or doing laundry or doing all these things before I sat down to do something that I really needed to do. I would take care of all these things around the house or take care of all these little mundane tasks that I had to do instead of focusing on my big goals and the task at hand. And, even checking after you started, we're talking about being distracted or procrastinating before you get going on something, but it continues even, once we start, we work for a few minutes on our big goal or some big task we have to do. And then we find ourselves distracted even once we start doing that. So, how many of you wake up and spend the first time of your day with your phone instead of yourself? Now, how many of you pull out your phone and start scrolling while you're out in public, in line at the store or waiting for your train? How many of us subconsciously reach for our phone while out to dinner, talking to a friend, or playing with our kids? For some of these, my hand was raised too, because this happens to all of us. And this is just the distraction that our phone presents. And it's just one of many distractions. Every screen is an opportunity for distraction. I mean, we go out to eat, there's screens all across, the back of every bar, or just on the wall or restaurant. And every distraction is a lost opportunity to live as your true self, to be focused and free. This quote by children's book author Kim Uliana is really powerful and hit home when I first read it. I put it in my book that's coming out soon called The Light in the Mirror. And Kim wrote, "Your cell phone won't feel bad if you don't pay attention to it. It won't care if you haven't played with it in a while. It won't mind if you don't hold it. Your cell phone will be small forever. Your children will not." Does scrolling through the news or social media get you to your goal faster? No. It just fills your brain with negative inputs of others, wastes your time, and takes your mind off what truly matters. Does a drink, a joint, or a gummy get you awake early and excited about your goals and dreams? No, it numbs your emotions and your dreams so you put them off for another day. It slows you down on your journey to your true self. Our addictions to the phone, alcohol, drugs, the negative news, social media, and other distractions take our focus from what truly matters. The dependence takes us from what matters most, from our dreams and from our loved ones. Modern life is full of distractions. All sorts of technology, news, communications, and content are vying for our precious limited attention. There are endless choices. And yet, there is one choice. The choice is to live as your true self or not. When you envision your true self or your future, the person you want to be, you don't picture yourself staring at a screen with your neck bent looking down. Distraction is our mind's way of avoiding discomfort. The problem is, the more we distract ourselves, the further we drift from our true self. The focused and aligned version of you who is focused on what truly matters and is free, energized, and excited for life. I love this quote by Blaise Pascal, and you're going to hear me reference lots of quotes today, and you'll see them up on the screen as well. But it says, "Distraction is the only thing that consoles us from our miseries, and yet it is itself the greatest of our miseries." So powerful. Means distraction is the greatest of our miseries. Distractions just derail your destiny. Constant detours from your true self and your big goals, especially to phones, social media, negative news, pull you off the path to your goals and away from the person you're meant to be. The person you've envisioned in your mind since you were young, your true self. Today, we're going to identify some of the biggest distractions, understand why they slow us down, and create a plan to replace them with aligned actions that help you feel centered and clear. Here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to cover first, recognizing distractions. Second, why we distract ourselves. Third, distraction replacement, meaning what are we going to replace those distractions with? And lastly, we're going to discuss designing your life to live free and focused, meaning setting up your environment and your habits so that you're not as distracted. We're going to do some exercises also in each section to get you thinking and focused. So try to be fully present here for the next, roughly 50 minutes without distraction. Breaking the cycle of distraction is what true freedom really is. Freedom from outside influence, freedom to shape your own days, freedom to pursue your big dreams, freedom to live your life on purpose, freedom to live as your true self. To break the cycle of distraction and live focused and free, we first need to understand what is distracting us and why. So this first section that we're going to get into is recognizing distractions. So let's get into recognizing those distractions. The American Psychology Institute defines distraction as a stimulus or task that draws attention away from the task of primary interest. Your primary interest should be life on purpose, living as your true self to accomplish your big goals. Let me say that again. Your primary attention should be living life on purpose as your true self to accomplish your big goal. Everything else is just noise. Not living as your true self, not living life on purpose is just a distraction. Other than spending time with our loved ones and serving others, everything else is just a distraction. Distraction can take on many forms and might not be tied to a physical item or action like TV or social media. Things like anxiety over world events fed by the negative news, comparing ourselves to others, and negative thoughts can also draw our time and attention away from what really matters. I didn't include this here, but I just read this yesterday that worry can occupy about 2 hours and 15 minutes of our day. If we're awake, for roughly, 15, 18 hours a day out of 24 hours, spending 2 hours, average person spends 2 hours and 15 minutes a day worrying. And, I read once that we have roughly 60,000 thoughts a day. And I was amazed when I read that we have roughly 60,000 thoughts a day, because I was thinking, who's counting this? But apparently the people who are responsible for counting such things came up with 60,000. So are your thoughts helping you to live life on purpose as your true self, or are they just distractions? We can retrain our brain to live life focused. We can retrain our brain to stay focused. You can learn to let thoughts that don't serve you pass by like clouds passing through the sky, just like I referenced during our short meditation. You have the ability to control your mind. Recognize the thought or distraction. Call it out. Say, hey, I'm thinking that thing again. I'm thinking that negative thought or that worry or that thing that holds me back. And I realize that it's a thought pattern. It recurs. I'm doing this thing or thinking that thought that's not what I want to do. I'm going to take a deep breath and return to that which helps me live on purpose. Bruce Lee said, if you love life, don't waste time, for time is what life is made up of. Don't waste your time. Live life habitually inspired. Distractions rob us from our precious time and energy. Every time we check our phones or switch tasks or try to do two things at once, we burn mental fuel that could have gone towards something meaningful to our life and our goals, to making our life better. Distractions derail your destiny. Constant detours from your big goals, especially to phones, social media, and negative news, pull you off the path to your goals and away from the person you're meant to become. The phone addiction dulls your presence and connection. Our unnatural reliance on phones damages relationships, weakens focus, and drowns out the inner voice that guides us to our true self and our higher purpose. You want to consume only positive content. What you consume shapes who you become. Just like food fuels your body, the content you feed your mind especially negative news, directly impacts your mental state, health, and future. I really love this Zig Ziglar quote. It goes, your input determines your outlook determines your output, and your output determines your future. Meaning, if we put this all together, your input determines your future. What you're putting into your brain, those images that you're seeing, they determine your future. If you want a bright future, consume only positive content. Think about what input you are receiving. Input means just as it says, put in. What are you putting into your brain? What are you consuming on your phone? Is it quality content that inspires you to achieve your big goals? Or are you just observing and interacting with the lives of others? They now call all of that information that you consume on your different platforms your quote feed. The output you get from an algorithm is your feed. Feed is what we give livestock. Feed is what we give horses and pigs. You are a human and do not need feed. You need healthy food, love, and connection with others. You need healthy content that helps you be your true self and inspires you to greatness. You don't need feed. Are you nourishing yourself and your brain? Are you creating your future by being on your phone or just reacting to others? Reacting to what you see on your feed? You are the master of your day, not the servant to endless videos, communication, and messages of others. If you want to live more fully, create your own outputs. Consider being proactive and change those inputs. The phone, TV, and internet all contain a certain feed that people have been trained to crave that is becoming increasingly destructive to our society and our well-being and taking us even further from our natural state. This dependence is on the endless news cycle. We are fed a constant barrage of horror. If, as Zig Ziglar just said, your input determines your outlook, which determines your output, and your output determines your future, then what future are we creating by feeding ourselves news filled with confrontation, anger, death, and destruction? It seems like we need to know what's going on right now, but we don't. Our responsibility is first and foremost to ourselves, our loved ones, and our community. You aren't responsible for keeping up with everything that happens in our massive world. The purpose of news used to be to report what was actually going on and was received once or twice a day through a newspaper or an evening news show. Now the purpose of the news is solely to sell more ads, and that's it. In order to sell more ads, they have to get you hooked. Fear is the best way to get you hooked because it triggers chemical reactions in your brain that react to the fear you see. This forged fear you are perceiving is not actually in front of you, though. You're not being chased by a tiger or seeing war, death, political fighting, or robberies in front of you. You're being shown a cultivated story or video to induce fear or conflict, which causes your brain to release a chemical called cortisol. Cortisol is the body's main stress hormone. It's good for us, it protects us. But when perceiving fear, the brain triggers the adrenal glands to release waves of cortisol. Dr. Tracy Johnson describes cortisol as nature's built-in alarm system. It works with certain parts of your brain to control your mood, motivation, and fear. But cortisol isn't just a stress hormone, as you see there. It doesn't just impact fear and perception in your brain. It regulates vital functions of your body. Negative news is actually negatively impacting your personal and physical health. Too much cortisol can derail your body's most important functions. It can also lead to a number of physical and mental health problems, including the ones you see there: anxiety and depression, headaches, trouble sleeping, heart disease, memory and concentration, problems with digestion, trouble sleeping. Negative news equals a cortisol overdose. which leads to those horrible symptoms. You ever wonder why you may feel like hell when you're so young and should feel great? You ever wonder why you're tired, sad, and can't concentrate at work? You ever wonder why your belly hurts or you have high blood pressure? The reality is, it could be because you're consuming too much news and producing too much cortisol. Now, look, if you go to the doctor, they're not going to screen you and say, how much negative news and how much doom scrolling do you do every day? You don't even know you do it, but you spend a lot of time scrolling through the horror because you've been trained to think that you need to know what's going on. We all have. I used to be completely addicted to it. I used to check the news apps every couple minutes. While we're talking about dependency on things that distract and keep us from our true selves, I also thought it necessary that we mention another major distraction, and that's drugs and alcohol. Now, I don't want to be too preachy here. I only just gave up alcohol and weed myself a couple of years ago, but the results I've felt since then have been undeniable. I've personally never been a big drinker, but after I was finished with work, it wasn't uncommon for me to, quote, chill out by hitting the weed pen or having a gummy. I was using weed as a way to de stress and disconnect. Why? I don't really know. But since I stopped completely 2 years ago, I'm happier, more productive, healthier, and more loving than I've ever been. I've produced so much over the last couple of years, and I'm working now to inspire you, write books, and give inspirational speeches because I no longer dampen the light from within me, and my time feels more fulfilling and purposeful. Alcohol and drugs are a part of our culture, and it evolves from youth into adult social activity and a stress reliever. But let's be real. For me and lots of people, it's an addiction. And surprisingly, since quitting, I'm also far less stressed without these so called stress reducers. I had a great life and plenty to be happy about. Although, as we all do, a lot of underneath that needed to be addressed. We've culturally accepted that once work is done, it's time for happy hour. But are we happy when we dampen our true selves and our aspirations and our true feelings without addressing them? Does numbing ourselves really make us happy? A buzz makes us feel good temporarily, but it's not real happiness. In fact, after the buzz wears off, we typically feel slower and far worse with headaches and hangovers. Plus, those underlying stressors that we are trying to escape from, they don't disappear. So they're compounded when we start to regain our focus. We're just distracting ourselves from what matters. And we're certainly not focused and free when we rely on intoxicants. Real happiness comes from living as your true self, and you can't do that if you're distracted. Sometimes our distractions are obvious, and sometimes they aren't. When you're unsure if something is a distraction, ask yourself, does this leave me feeling energized and excited or drained and demotivated? If it's not enriching your life and getting you closer to your big goals, it's a distraction. It's a distraction if it's not enriching your life and getting you closer to your big goals. Now that we've discussed some distractions, and there are plenty of others, but I was hitting on the main ones of the phone, social media, negative news, social email and texting constantly, uh, as well as drugs and alcohol. But take out your journal now and a pen and a piece of paper, and why don't you just take a deep breath? Take out that piece of paper, and I want you to divide it into 4 columns. In the first column, the column to the left, at the top right, distractions. I'm going to give you a couple minutes, and I want you to think about your life and what the biggest distractions are for you right now. Write them down in this column. You're not sure if something is a distraction. Again, ask yourself, does it make me feel like my true self? Does it get me to my big goals? So, what are the primary distractions in your life that steal your focus? Some examples: phone, email, negative news, social media, drugs, alcohol, multitasking, worrying. We discussed worrying, overworking, people pleasing, multitasking. That's a distraction. You're not focused on your big goals. You're just doing a bunch of little things and not really focused. Take about 1 to 2 minutes and just write your distractions. Okay. Now that you've done that, hopefully, that gave you a couple minutes to think about your distractions and realize, what they're taking you from. Now, I want you to go to the second column. And at the top of the second column, write feels. Take a few minutes to consider your distraction. And in this column, write, how does this distraction leave you feeling after you give into it? Does it leave you feeling energized, happy, neutral, anxious, sad, self-conscious, frustrated, or drained? How did those distractions that you listed in column one make you feel? And I'll give you, again, just like a minute to work on that. How do those distractions make you feel? All right. Now, now that we've done this, we're going to go through the next section. We'll continue to fill out these columns. You can just set this to the side right now. We'll come back to it. Just imagine your focus as a light beam. Every distraction splits that beam and diffuses the light. A text here, a notification there, a quick distraction of just, I'll watch this one video. And soon, excuse me, your light is scattered instead of directed. Our goal today is to gather that light back into focus. Your light is meant to shine and shine brightly, not be dimmed by distractions. When you're on purpose, living as your true self, your light shines brightly and you feel that glow project out into the world. But when you're distracted, you don't even see that light. Now we're going to start getting into why we actually distract ourselves. Let's talk about why we get distracted. So in this next section, we're going to talk about why we distract ourselves, meaning our addictions to phones, alcohol, drugs, the negative news, social media, and other distractions take our focus from what matters. The dependence takes us from what matters most, from our dreams and from our loved ones. If there are so many negatives that come with distraction, why are we so drawn to it? Why do we spend so much of our life distracted instead of living life on purpose? Why do we let distractions take precedent in our lives over our big goals, our happiness, and our dreams? Emotional and mental states is the first one, meaning our uncomfortable feelings like anxiety, stress, boredom, and loneliness trigger a desire to escape. Again, our emotional and mental states. We have uncomfortable feelings like anxiety or stress or boredom and loneliness. Those trigger a desire to escape. Next, our physical state. A lack of sleep or poor nutrition make it difficult to concentrate and can lead to brain fog and fatigue. And lastly, a lack of interest or motivation. If a task isn't interesting, it's easy to let our mind wander to things that are more enjoyable and entertaining. Most of us don't get distracted because we don't care. We get distracted because we're avoiding something. We're avoiding, discomfort, boredom, socializing, and silence. A lot of us avoid silence. but there's nothing better for your mental state than silence and stillness. A lot of us avoid fear of failure. Ironically, a lot of people even avoid fear of success, meaning we feel like we don't deserve the success or we haven't earned it or we avoid doing something because it might just work out. And so many other things haven't worked out. Another reason a lot of you might get distracted is perfectionism. Perfectionism equals procrastination. Procrastination equals distraction. When you want something to be perfect, you wait for the conditions to be perfect before starting, so you put it off until tomorrow or next week or till some other task is done first. Some of us put things off forever until it slips away. We let that dream go because the conditions aren't right. The cycle of procrastination is how we can go a lifetime without recognizing or realizing our dreams. Good and done is better than perfect and undone. Good and done is better than perfect and undone. I used to suffer from this horribly. I used to want things to be perfect and exactly right. And I would put things off until everything was aligned and I felt like it could be perfect. And what I realized is it just wasn't getting done. But good enough is good enough. Good and done is better than perfect and undone. As with any great endeavor, you need to just start. And there is no grander endeavor than building your amazing life today. There's a great quote I love by Alan Cohen. I state this regularly. And it talks about setting aside procrastination and it really gets you going. It says, don't wait until the conditions are perfect to begin. Beginning makes the conditions perfect. Just start. Thinking about it and having great ideas do not make them happen. You make them happen by taking action. The rest of your life is an extraordinary endeavor, and you may as well be who you're meant to be starting now. Amazing quote that I also include this quote in our Aligned Habits workshop that says, we are kept from our goal, not by obstacles, but by a clear path to lesser goals. We're always taking detours and getting off the highway to our dreams, not because it's too hard or too far, but because we're distracted by what is right in front of us. Instead of hitting their goal of climbing to the top of the mountain, these folks got distracted by a sign that said, great view over here. It wasn't an obstacle. It was a clear path to a lesser goal of looking at the great view. But these folks continued on to the summit. They weren't distracted by the lesser goal, the sign that says great view over here, or the shiny object that says just do this one thing. They continued on to the summit. And the view from there is so much better than that little sign that says great view. Now, pull out that piece of paper again. At the top of the third column, write avoids. In this column, you'll be writing what it is that your distraction is trying to keep you from. What are you avoiding with your distraction? Is it discomfort or boredom or socializing or silence or fear of failure? Like we said, fear of success. What is it that you're avoiding? Is it restlessness? Is it overwhelm? Is it loneliness? Is it anxiety? Just take a couple seconds and think about what you're avoiding with that distraction. We'll give you just a minute or two to work on that. All right, let's go ahead and move on here. And by the way, we didn't say this at the beginning. I usually say at the beginning of our workshops, and that is feel free to share. Put in what is it that you're avoiding with your distractions. By all means, just put it in the chat. You can press the chat button on the bottom and put what you may be avoiding by your distractions. And every distraction is trying to serve you. It's soothing something. It's giving you a microdose of comfort, control, or connection. The key isn't to shame the distraction, but to decode it and rewire it. Once you understand what need it's trying to meet, you can replace it with something aligned. Let it fall away. Just like the leaves falling off the trees that shed their leaves to make way for new growth in the spring, just let the distractions fall away so that you can grow. Now we want to start moving to replacing distractions with habits. Now, for years, I used to be completely distracted. And I spent years researching, getting to our big goals and how to set habits that align with our big goals. And part of what we're talking today is the culmination of some of that research over the last 7 years. And, I used to distract myself by all kinds of things. I mentioned a couple of them before, but, I used to wake up, immediately go for the phone and start, responding to texts and emails like my thumbs were on fire so that I would feel proactive. But, most of the times I was usually getting up later than I should. And what I was doing was just responding to whatever was in front of me. But I've replaced that with the habit of waking up by 5 in the morning, meditating and journaling, and not looking at my phone for the first hour of the day. And that way, I'm focused on my life and I'm creating my day with intention before reacting to anyone else. So instead of starting my day reactive, I'm starting my day proactive and setting my intention for the day, not letting others dictate how my day is going to go. So you now know how to recognize and diagnose distractions. But how do you leave them behind for good? I'm grateful that I've had the opportunity to put these practices into place and get rid of a lot of these distractions for good. And that's why I want to share it with you. It's had a huge impact on my life, and I'm now living my life habitually inspired, and I want the same for you. Distractions are really just bad habits. And like bad habits, they can most effectively be broken by replacing them with positive habits. Habits, good and bad, are hard to break, and heaven knows, I've had my bad habits, like smoking, using weed, staying up too late. But it's a lot easier to break bad habits when you have good habits and positive reinforcement to replace them. So if you get distracted by your phone, make a habit of turning your phone off and leaving it somewhere where it won't grab your attention. Like one habit I made to get rid of the phone distraction and make sure that I was fully present with my kids is I made a habit on my habitually inspired habit tracker, which we'll share with you after this recording. And I made it a habit for 6 months to put my phone on the charger after work and be fully present with my wife and kids. That made a huge difference. Instead of checking email every few minutes, once I walked away from work, I was done. If you get distracted by checking emails and messages all day, create boundaries so that there are specific times in your day for you to read and respond. You can't respond constantly. You need to focus on your big goals. If you're drinking every night, drinking alcohol, make it a habit to make a smoothie at that time and enjoy it while watching, listening to, or reading inspiring content. Replace a bad habit with a good habit. Recognizing the distraction and then replace it with a healthy habit. So there are a couple of examples. Work is distracting me from precious time with my kids. Like I said, I made it a habit of just putting work away, putting things on the charger, shutting the laptop, putting my phone on the charger, and being fully present. There's something you can do. You can do yoga, do stretching, read a book, do something with your kids. If you don't have kids, read a book, watch inspiring content. In the words of Aristotle, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. By retraining your brain to live a positive, productive, and happy life, you're more easily able to be focused and free. Even if you've done the same negative routine for decades, your brain can be reprogrammed through deliberate practice. Again, we are what we repeatedly do. If you want to be free from distractions, then set new habits and do them repeatedly. It doesn't happen overnight, but with practice, you can retrain your brain for love, happiness, and success. Positive habits are the key to making your dreams and your goals real. The Oracle of Omaha, Warren Buffett, said, "Chains of habit are too light to be felt until they are too heavy to be broken." Don't wait for the future to happen. Start being that person you are meant to be now. It doesn't have to be profound or difficult. Just make it simple. The habitually inspired habit tracker I mentioned that we created is simply a way of tracking up to 10 daily habits. What does your focused and free, true self do each day that you aren't doing now? When you envision life as you want it to be lived, what is it that you do every day? Pick those things and be that person that you want to be by practicing each day, and you'll quickly become that person. My life is improving each day because I'm tracking that which matters most to me and holding myself accountable by tracking it. I'm living as my true self, unchained from distraction, focused and free. Start living like, dressing like, and being that person that you envision in your mind. It is you, but different. It's the person you're meant to be. You'll start to become that person if you just practice. So, who do you want to become? And are you fired up to become that person? Jim Rohn said, "Motivation is what gets you started. Habit is what keeps you going." Motivation is what gets you started. Habit is what keeps you going. We're here to live focused and free, to set big goals that energize us for the future. But this time, we're going to accomplish those goals because we're going to replace distraction with habits that make achieving those goals inevitable. Now, I want you to take just a moment to close your eyes like we did earlier. Or like I said, bring your gaze down low if closing your eyes isn't comfortable, and just breathe deeply and imagine yourself 1 year from now, focused on your goals and free from distractions. What would you do with your time? What would you do with all that time that you get back free from distraction? This gives you a clearer picture of the good habits you can use to replace your distractions. Just envision your life 1 year from now, focused and free, focused on your big goals, living life habitually inspired. What is it that you do during that time? Obviously, you're not going to see yourself with distractions. So just take 1 minute, 2 minutes, close your eyes, and envision yourself 1 year from now, focused and free. All right, let's start to bring some presence back. I hope you're able to envision yourself focused and free a year from now. And if you can, take your journal out, return back to your sheet that has the columns on it. And if you can, in your last column, write the word replace. Here, you'll write how you'll replace this distraction with a healthier habit that leaves you feeling like yourself. So if you go from distraction, feels, and avoids, what are you going to replace that distraction with? What is a habit that you can replace the distraction with? What is a good, healthy habit that you can replace the bad habit with? And take just, again, 1 to 2 minutes right in there and fill it in honestly. What's something you could do instead of screen time, negative news, drinking, drugs, social media, procrastination? What's a good habit you could replace that with? And again, I've said before, feel free to share. Put in the chat there. Uh, one of the good habits that you want to pick up that you'll replace with distractions. Again, maybe no phone for the first hour of the day and the last hour at night. What are you going to do during that time? And we're going to offer some suggestions in a little bit as well. Now remember, it's not about cutting out everything. It's about replacing noise with nourishment. Every time you remove a distraction, you create space for something that restores your energy, not drains it. And next, we're going to start talking about designing for focus. Now that we know what's pulling us off track and what we can replace it with, let's design an environment that helps us stay focused and free. Focus isn't accidental. If anything, focus is completely intentional. You choose to focus just like you choose to get distracted. However, knowing is much different than actually doing. And I know it's hard. And often distractions win even when we know that we're supposed to be productive. This is because we need to cultivate an environment where focus is possible. If we're looking to plant some flowers, are we going to choose to plant them in sandy soil with big shade trees? No, we're going to look for somewhere with full sunlight and nutrient-dense soil so that roots can take hold. It's the same for us in our focus. If we put ourselves in a distracting environment, there's no chance we'll be able to focus for very long. We have to plant ourselves in the best environment to grow. And I don't just mean environment meaning where you're actually sitting. I mean designing everything that you're doing, setting yourself up for success, meaning where you are, what you're doing, as well as what you're putting in front of yourself. For us, this starts at night before we go to sleep, meaning you want to set yourself up for success for the next day. Often, we might go to sleep ignoring or even dreading the next morning, numbing ourselves with TV or phone scrolling. But don't do that. You're robbing yourself of your focus and inviting distraction into your life. You don't just fizzle out at the end of the day and stare blankly at the TV or your phone. You want to win the day and be able to go into the next day victorious. Your next round in the tournament of life. You want to close strong each day. We talked about not looking at the phone for the first hour of the day. Also, don't do it for the last hour of night. Spend that time doing something productive. Here's what I recommend at the end of the day. Just doing a quick evening journal. And this only takes me about 5 minutes, maybe even less, 2 to 3 minutes before I go to sleep. I journal every night in my journal here, unabashedly titled The Best Journal Ever. 3 things. What are your wins from today? What did you do? Maybe, a work goal you accomplished, or a fitness goal, or spending time with family, or getting to exercise, or yoga, or breathing deeply, or some other celebration that you did, or maybe it was just having, some quiet, loving time with family or friends, or something you did. But it doesn't really matter. What are your wins for today? And list, 1 or 20. Just what are your wins for today? Second, what are your 3 top priorities for the next day? Just 3 things that you will get done tomorrow. Believe it or not, I've been doing this for 5 years now. It's harder to get just 3 things done each day than you can imagine. And I don't mean a laundry list of your top priorities. No more than 3. As Jim Collins said, if you have more than 3 priorities, you have none. So I have an accountability partner, and every night, we text each other our big 3 priorities for the next day. And at the end of the day, we text each other whether we did them 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 3 of 3. It's harder to get just 3 things done than you think, but your day is successful if you schedule in and you get those 3 things done. Lastly, how do you want to show up tomorrow? How do you want to be? Who's the person you want to be? Maybe you use an I am statement for that. I am successful. I am strong. I am powerful. I am focused. I am free. How do you want to show up tomorrow? So just those 3 things, your wins for the day, your top 3 priorities, and how you want to show up the next day. Do that before you go to bed. These 3 quick prompts are magic. They can turn chaos into clarity and dread into excitement. When you start cultivating your focus the night before, you'll wake up with purpose and energy and be able to more easily maintain your focus throughout the day. Do things that are intentional. Like as soon as my feet hit the floor every morning, I say to myself, it's going to be an amazing day. And if I forget to say it as soon as my feet hit the floor, I at least say it on my, groggy stumble to the bathroom. Do you want to be the type of person that wakes up and says, good morning, God? Or do you want to be the type of person that says, good God, morning? Apart from our internal environment, our external environment is a source of endless distractions. While we have less control over external factors, we can fully control how we interact with them and the energy we give them. What is the first thing you do when you wake up? If you're like a lot of people, you probably pick up your phone to turn off an alarm. But your phone is a weapon of mass distraction. Even turning off an alarm can turn into responding to text, scrolling social media, or checking email. The phone is the number 1 environmental distraction we have, and it's one that you should be especially intentional about. So, how do we avoid this slippery slope? Apart from turning off your alarm or playing maybe some soothing music or listening to inspirational content, you should try your best to avoid your phone or other distracting technology for the first and last hours of the day. Your phone is filled to the brim with distractions that are looking to steal your time and your energy. Don't give it power over the most important times of your day. The first and last hour of your day should be sacred time, dedicated to yourself and your glorious future, not whatever pops up on your social notifications or on news. Another great tip to use your phone is to use your phone to escape your phone. As with all things, finding a balance with how you use your phone is imperative. Use your phone to set downtime from your phone. Set time limits on certain apps, or even delete distracting apps altogether. Set a no phone for 1 hour reminder to pop up an hour before bed and for the first hour you're awake. I use the phone example because it's a weapon of mass distraction and it's a great starting point for regaining your focus. We all have a finite amount of time and energy, but strategic ignorance is purposefully choosing to use that time and energy on things that help us live as our true selves by avoiding the negative news cycle and other things that distract us altogether. I want to talk for a minute about strategic ignorance. It's a great concept, and it started when in 2016, after the election, I decided not to consume negative news anymore. It's been, what, 9 years now? I made a conscious decision to get off the news. I scroll the news apps every couple of hours, probably even once an hour, multiple times an hour. I had been a news junkie since I was a teenager. It continued into adulthood, and most of us do the same. I love politics and world events since I was a kid. That's why I went to college in Washington, D.C. and worked in the U.S. Senate and the House. The more I was off the news, though, the more I realized that it's just the same stuff repeated daily without much change. It's not as relevant as you think it is. When we're in it, it seems relevant and constantly changing, but it's actually not once you step back and see it for what it is. So at first, I stayed informed, but less often. I noticed myself getting healthier. This was the period I started getting up earlier and incorporated working out into my daily routine. I felt lighter and happier. A couple years later, I learned from Dr. Benjamin Hardy about the concept of strategic ignorance. When I did it initially, I didn't even know about this concept. To sum it up, we all have a finite amount of time and energy, and strategic ignorance is purposely choosing to use that time and energy on things that help us live as our true selves by avoiding the negative news cycle and other things that distract us altogether. Setting up your environment and what you consume allows you to focus on your priorities, your goals, and your life without being distracted. The news is a distraction. You're driving your life. And when you're sucked in and distracted by the negative news, you're a passenger on a wild ride being driven by an erratic, angry, drunk Uber driver. Someone else is driving you, and they do not have your safety and best interest in mind. Take control of the wheel and get off the news and drive your life. You guide your day. For the first and last hour of your day, dedicate that sacred time to yourself, not whatever pops up on social media or the news. Now, bring out your journal again. And this isn't necessarily on that sheet of paper, but if you have a piece of paper, bring out your journal. And I want to ask you, what's one simple environmental shift that you can make that would make distraction less likely? A couple of examples, things like, turning off phone notifications, setting up a hard stop for work, creating a deep work block. I call it focus time. I try to spend at least 90 minutes every single day on my top priority and at the beginning of the day. So I get my big priority done. Maybe move social apps off your home screen. Creating scheduled journaling time or, focus Fridays. I do that on Wednesdays. I make Wednesday a day. I don't schedule a bunch of meetings. I schedule it or calls. I schedule it just for focus. So what's one environmental shift you can make that would make distraction less likely? And I'll give you just a couple minutes to do that. Some examples, maybe, keeping your phone in another room for the first hour of the day. Starting every morning with a 5-minute intention setting journal. Certainly like the Focus Fridays as well. Discipline isn't restriction, it's freedom. When you remove distractions, you create space to actually live your life. What's one simple environmental shift you can make that would make distractions less likely? I'll give you just a minute or so to do that before we proceed to closing. All right, again, I've said before, but feel free to share if you want to type in the chat. You can share what's one simple environmental shift you can make that would make distractions less likely. You feel free to share that in the chat. And then we're going to proceed to close and talk about being focused and free. And before we close, let's just have a moment while you have your journal out. And let's just have a short reflection to anchor everything that we've covered today. So again, as we've done before, just sit comfortably and close your eyes, or just bring your gaze down low and take a deep breath in and just think for a minute. Consider what you felt and learned over the last hour, and then write one sentence to capture your intention for the week over the next 7 days that you can do to live focused and free. A personal mantra to protect your energy and focus. Something like we have some listed there. I'm creating before I consume, meaning you're creating the life you want to live instead of consuming content you don't need. I'm focused on what fuels me. I'm free from distraction. I'm focused and free. Write down something that resonates with you using an I am statement. Take just a moment to do that, and then we'll proceed to close, wrap up, and happy to stay on for some question and answer as well. All right, we're going to proceed to closing now. And I just want to thank you for showing up for yourself today. Yeah, and actually, Don, yeah, absolutely. I was going to address that. We will absolutely have a recorded version. And I should have said it at the beginning. We always provide a recording of our workshops, as well as some of the tools we have, like our Epic Daily Ritual, High Performers Epic Daily Ritual Guide, which is wonderful, includes some of the tips that we have for avoiding distraction. We'll be providing that. I think we'll probably provide a habit tracker as well. And we're going to provide the full recorded version for you too, with some additional resources. So, as you saw from today, you can reclaim your natural state and become your true self by setting boundaries, by creating intentional limits on media, news, intoxicants, and digital input. You return to your natural state of love, joy, and presence, and you can reconnect with the light that you see in the mirror. It's a glorious world, and we have one chance to make the most of it. That's the reason you decided to be here today. Instead of letting your phone, substances, or the negative news distract your attention from your life and big goals, focus on what really matters. Focus on developing the person you see in your mind, your true self, who you're meant to be. Focus on making yourself better, stronger, happier. Focus on the love in the mirror and cast it out into the world. Focus on removing all these distractions, keeping you from achieving great success and happiness. As Bruce Lee said, the successful warrior is the average man with laser-like focus. The successful warrior is the average man with laser-like focus. To be successful, you got to focus. You're now equipped to recognize, release, and replace distractions. So your energy goes exactly where it's meant to your true self. You can live each day habitually inspired, focused, and free. Now, I'm grateful that you were able to stay here. Those of you who were able to stay till the end. I realized we went a little bit over an hour. We generally try to keep it under 90 minutes. Well, I'm happy to stay on for some Q&A as well. But what you learned today is a solid foundation for living as your true self. But truly living focused and free takes practice and consistency. So at the end of this month, we're really excited about releasing our True Self project. It's a 30-day habit challenge, which is a 30-day on-demand course where you can turn these lessons you learned today into a daily practice. And you can start living confidently, undistracted as your true self in only a month rather than the years that it took me. So we're going to save you a bunch of time by providing a lot of the tools that we've learned and that I've developed over the years. And the True Self Project, it's only $30. That's only $1 a day for 30 days of powerful transformation and alignment. So you can pre-order the course that it's going to be ready at the end of the month. You can do it now just by signing up by clicking the QR code. I think we'll probably provide a link in the follow-up email as well. But if you do pre-order today, we also are going to include a free one-on-one coaching session with me during the challenge. So during the True Self Project to help you stay on track. So I think we also have a discount code for registering today that I'm sure we'll put up or send around. So take a look at the True Self Project. I think we're really excited about that. We've been working on this for months. We've been working on it since July. And it's really, there it goes. TSP50 TSP5 off. Sorry, not 50, 50FF, 5 off for $5 off. So it's just an exciting thing that we're doing. It's getting people in the right mindset at the end of the year before they head into a new year. And it'll definitely help you set big goals and stay on track for the end of the year. So you're going to start your new year, 2026, with big goals and ready to execute on those goals, living as your true self. Happy to stay on if anyone has any questions about what we covered today. I know we didn't do a lot of interaction or a lot of feedback, but please, come off, on video, raise your hand, take your mic off mute, or you can also put questions in the chat if anyone has any questions or would like any feedback. All right. Well, I'm going to stay on for a couple minutes. If anyone does have any questions, by all means, please. And also, you know what? I'm going to put my email in the chat. We usually make available my email too if you want to reach out with any questions or comments or feedback on getting rid of distractions or setting big goals.
Hey, Ben, I don't know if you saw in the chat, but Dawn asked, do you have suggestions for focus with a toddler?
Great
and I'm
question.
sure that you have some feedback for that.
Great question, Dawn. Having 5 kids ranging from 4 to 17, I got to say, a lot of these habits that I put in place have to be the case. Now, I guess, Dawn, I'd ask in that, and I don't know if you're on. I think we might have lost Dawn. Yeah, I think Dawn left. I will reach out to Dawn and give her some suggestions for that. Let's see. Yeah, Dawn left. Yeah, I'll reach out to Dawn with some suggestions there. Anyone else have any other questions? Sorry, I wish I had caught that sooner. All right. Well, seeing none, by all means, you can email me any questions. Happy to answer them. If you can, sign up for the True Self Project, and really grateful for everyone joining today and hoping you live focused and free. All right. Have a great rest of your day, evening, depending where you are. Be well, focused and free.